Hey guys, it's Kyla at the MJC, and today I am here to talk to you guys about the child support and other related financial expenses section of the marital settlement agreement with minor children. So, everyone's favorite section. But before we get going, just a reminder that nothing in this video is intended to be legal advice. It's a video, so I'm not able to analyze your specific situation to determine if this paperwork is the right paperwork for you and your situation, to determine if what you're asking for is likely to be approved by a court, or to determine if what you're asking for in your agreement is what is in your best interest. So if you have those kinds of questions, I would definitely recommend getting some legal advice. You can get brief legal advice for free through the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics. If you're not located in Milwaukee County and you want legal advice or brief legal advice, you can contact the clerk of court in your county to find out what resources are available where you are. All right, so we're going to hop into the child support section. And first, I'm going to answer the question that I get probably the most from people. So a lot of people will say, you know what, we just want child support to be zero. We can skip this section, right? No, unfortunately, you still need to fill this in, even if your ultimate goal is to agree for child support to be zero. Another question that I often get with people is they say, well, you know what, we actually have a child support case. There was a support and maintenance case started, while we've been split up. We don't need to do this, right? Also incorrect. You'll need to do this as well. Even if you want it to continue to be the amount that it is through that other case, once your divorce is finalized, any old paternity cases or support and maintenance cases will get, for the most part, absorbed into this divorce case. And so, if you want child support to continue at the amount it is, we need to go through and put it in this section. All right, so the first part of the section is you have to tell the court what the percentage standard would be, or what the standard formula would be in your situation. So you can see there are 10 options here. You're going to select one of the 10, and so we'll go through them in a minute. And I guess I should say it is theoretically possible to be in multiple sections. So you could be in both the shared placement formula and the high income payer formula. But if you're in a sort of a dual section, that's really a good question for legal advice if you're needing to figure out how to calculate that. That really puts you sort of beyond the scope of these videos, certainly. Okay, so the ones over here in the left-hand column, this is the percentage standard. The percentage standard is generally used when you don't fit into any of these categories. So it's usually going to be a situation where you have primary placement with one parent, where there is no split placement. And again, I'll get into all these terms in a minute. Nobody's high or low income and all that sort of thing. So if you're in the percentage standards, that's really easy. All you have to do is check whichever percentage corresponds with how many kids you have. One kid, 17%. 2 kids, 25%, 3 kids, 29%, 4 kids, 31%. If you have 5 or more, 34%. So that's pretty easy. So if we were in this one, then John and Jane have 2 minor children, they would check 25%. If you're in this, then you're done. You go down to number 2 over here. So let's go through these formulas, because basically you determine if you're in the percentage standard by ruling out these formulas over here. So the first one over here is the split placement formula. What split placement is split placement is like the Parent Trap. It is where you have more than one child, and one child lives with one parent and one child lives with the other parent. Or if you have more than 2 kids, if you have 3 kids, 2 kids live with one parent and one lives with the other. So that is split placement. Basically, under split placement, at least one kid will live primarily with each of the parents. Shared placement is defined very specifically. It is where the person with less time has at least 92 overnights in a year. So a lot of people will say, oh, we don't have shared placement because we're not asking for 50-50. Keep in mind that shared placement isn't 50-50. Shared placement is, does the person with less time have at least 92 overnights in a year? To give you an idea of what that could look like, It would be shared placement if I have 2 overnights every week. So if I have my child every weekend and my ex has them all through the week, that would be a shared placement schedule. Because if you take 2, the number of overnights I have in a week, times 52, the number of weeks in a year, you get 104. 104 is greater than 92, so that would be shared placement. But it's worth noting that for shared placement to apply, it doesn't have to be every week. If I'm somebody who has my children in the summer, so maybe my kids stay with me, May, June, July, August, that's 4 months. Again, 30 days times 4 gives us 120. That's also over 92. So that could be a shared placement formula as well, even if I don't see the children at all during the school year. So that's shared placement. Serial family is where if you have one of you that has children with multiple moms or multiple dads. So if in our situation, let's say maybe John had a child before he got married to Jane. So he has an older child that there's a child support order for, and then the 2 minor children with Jane. That would be the serial family or the serial parent formula, because it's basically there are different families that have child support orders, different moms or different dads. The low income pair formula is a chart. It's a calculation basically for people whose incomes are particularly low. So generally, if you are under about $1,500 per month, the person who is paying, again, this one applies to who's paying. If the person who is paying is low income, about less than $1,500 a month, they may fall into that formula. And high income is if your income is about, again, the person who is paying, if their income is more than about $7,000 per month. Those numbers do vary a little bit, so if you are close to those and you want to make sure you aren't in the high or low income payer formula, you can check out the website for your local child support agency, or for DCF, that's the Department of Children and Families in Wisconsin, to find those exact standards at the time you're filling this out. So for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go ahead and indicate that, again, John and Jane fall into the percentage standards. If you are in one of these and you want information about them, we do have videos coming out about the shared placement formula and the low income pair formula out there. If you fall into one of the other categories, again, your local child support website or the Department of Children and Families, you can find calculators there for those. All right, so then once we've decided which of these 10 we fit into, we come down here and you can see the first one wants to know, based on the above standard, based on whichever box you checked, what would the standard amount be? And so that's where we will take, because if you're in the percentage standards, it's a lot easier. So we're in the percentage standards. You go over here. We go to the number on John's financial. We see that his gross income is $3,577. And then we're just going to pull up. I'm going to move the calculator so you guys can see it. We're going to take his gross income of $3,577. We're going to multiply it by 0.25 for 25%. And we come up with $894.25. So based on that, the payment would be from, we often put father to mother, or mother to father. We put your relationship to the children, but that's not required at all. Some people will put names. So we might say from John Smith to Jane Doe. Or you could put your role in this case. So from joint petitioner B to joint petitioner A, or from respondent to petitioner, however you want to do that. Here in Milwaukee, that is reported weekly. So it's reported weekly, right? This number, as you will note, is monthly, because we took it based off John's monthly income. What you'll do is you're going to take this number, you're going to multiply it by 12, right? 12 months in a year. So this gives us a yearly number. And then we're going to divide that by 52, which is the number of weeks in a year. We end up with 206.36. So that's going to go here. And those of you who don't believe me, again, if we end up with 206.36 per week, so times 52, and you divide that back out into a monthly number, you end up, it looks like it's $894.22. So it's very, very close. It's just the rounding that I did there, and you could round up to make it be exactly that $895. Yeah, so that is what you're going to put there. For those of you who are not in the straight percents, so obviously if you're in the percents, you're going to multiply by 0.17 for one child, 0.25 for two, 0.29 for three, 0.31 for four, 0.34 for five or more. For those of you over here, you'll have to actually go to the Child Support Agency's website and pull up the formula. They've written out how you can calculate it mathematically, for those of you who are so inclined. For those of you who don't like math that much, they also have some Excel sheets that will actually do the calculation for you for the most common formulas. So like the shared placement one and the high income pair formula. For the low income pair formula, it's not actually an equation, it's a chart. So you can pull up the chart and see under the most recent calculation what your number would be there. And again, there are videos on that on our website if you'd like to look through those. But you'll do that calculation, and whatever that calculation spits out, you'll write here. And again, the calculators do it monthly, so you'll have to do that same little jig I did, multiplying by 12 and dividing by 52 to get a weekly number. So if above, when we were talking about health insurance, if you said, yeah, we're going to have a cash contribution from the person who is paying to the person who is receiving because of health insurance, you'll include that here. So if John, let's say John is paying for health insurance and Jane was supposed to pay him $100 per week towards that health insurance, or let's say $100 per month times that health insurance, we would end up saying, okay, well, 100 times 12 divided by 52 means she's supposed to pay $23.07 per week. And I know some of you are looking at that and saying, what the heck? There are 4 weeks in a month. That should be 25. The reason why we do that times 12 divided by 52 is because if we don't, then the months that have 5 weeks end up being a little weird. So anyway, we could say, okay, well, that's going to decrease child support by $23.07 because that's Jane's contribution to the health insurance. Or if Jane were paying for the insurance and John needed to pay a little more in child support to be a contribution towards that insurance, we could say it increases. So it's all going to be based off our payer, whether it increases or decreases. But again, I find a lot of folks who are doing it jointly aren't doing that. So if you didn't say up above there'd be a cash contribution, you can just put 0 here. So then this deviation line is basically, if you look at this number and you say, we love this number, this is what we want it to be, great. You can skip the deviation line here. You can just put 0 on that line and move on to C. If you look at this number and you say, uh-oh, that is not the number we want it to be, and it's not because of a cash contribution for health insurance, then you'll come here to a deviation based on. And you can put your reason for doing the deviation. So you can say, and again, deviation is just for fancy lawyer lingo for doing something different than this number. We most commonly just have people say that the parties agree. If that's your reason. I mean, if there's some other reason you want to put, you can. Parties agree and dad is paying for babysitting or whatever. You can put that in, but most folks, we just put parties agree. But again, you'll write whatever your reasoning is. And then you'll indicate what it's going to do to this. So if John and Jane were actually agreeing for him to pay $500 per month, then we would take, the $500, minus 206.36, and then we would say here it increases it by $293.64 per week. But if you're in a situation where you want it to decrease, and again, that's what we see from most folks, you want it to be, say, 0, you would just take 206.36. That one minus that one gives us 0, which you'll write here. And this line is what your order will actually be. So here you put the date. Again, we've talked before about dates. We tend to just put the first of the next month, but you can agree to any date that you would like. And payable from John Smith to Jane Doe. And per week. So there you go. We have filled out that section. I will be back in a bit to talk about the next section, but until then, go out and represent yourselves well.